Oh no, I'm late. I'm late. Hey, it's time for us to be reading. And I was late. I'm so sorry. Today we're going to start off some more of our Almost Super book. We are ready for chapter 8 and we're going to read chapter 9. Yes. Hey, do you have your super colors on? I've got my orange and black. And I have my coffee cup because it's early morning. So, all right, let's get started. We don't even have a taco night is the name of the chapter. Juanita grabbed us both by the collars. She might have looked small and fragile, but in an instant she took 2 short steps and threw us into the bushes. I expected to be stopped by limbs and branches, but instead I fell through the foliage into an opening between the bushes and the wall of the school. Juanita had us trapped. I turned my back against the wall, bracing for her attack. Juanita crouched on her hands and knees, and I could see white mist escaping from her mouth as she panted. "What were you saying in there about not being villains?" Her voice sounded sarcastic. "And remind me who just destroyed the school library." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Benny jumped to my rescue. Well, we wouldn't have had to destroy it if you hadn't tried to smash us." Juanita glared. In a much smaller voice, Benny said, "Do you think Mr. Wells is going to be mad?" "Oh, I think everybody's going to be mad, Bailey," Juanita said. "The only reason I don't turn you in right now is because it might give away my secret identity." Juanita turned her head and spit. "Does your mouth ever dry out with all that spitting you do?" I asked. Juanita didn't bother answering. "We'll probably have to tell the librarian," Benny said. Clearly, Juanita's mind games were working. That would be the right thing to do. "We were defending the school from a villain," I said, looking directly at Juanita. "We can't tell the librarian without explaining that we're superheroes." "Supervillains," Juanita said. "Superheroes! Supervillains! Superheroes! Can I say something?" Benny asked. Juanita shrugged. "I'm not your teacher. You can talk whatever you want." Benny cleared his throat. "I got my superpower on Monday, and it was worthless." I looked over at my brother in horror. Juanita's face went dark. Her eyes narrowed, and for a moment she looked like a snake about to strike. "What did you just say?" He didn't say anything. "Benny, don't say another word." Benny, of course, went right on talking. "My power lets me turn my belly button from an innie to an outie." He got on his knees and lifted his shirt. With a soft pop, his belly button became an outie. Another pop, and it became an innie. "That's my superpower." I couldn't help it. I slapped myself on the forehead. Now Juanita knew we were powerless. Or rather, that Benny was powerless. I still had to try to bluff. "If you try to hurt him," I said, doing my best to sound threatening, "my power is—" I realized I should have thought of a fake power earlier. "I can shoot microwaves out of my eyes." Benny looked surprised. "Microwaves? Wouldn't that hurt when they came out? They're big and square." "Not the appliances, Benny," I said. "Just the waves. You know, excuse me, like on taco night when I melted all that cheese for your nachos with my eyes." "We don't even have a taco night." I couldn't read Juanita's face. She looked at Benny for a long time. Her face seemed to soften, and I realized for the first time that when she wasn't scowling or spitting, Juanita looked almost pretty. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet. "That was very brave of you, Benny Bailey." Almost as an afterthought, she turned her head and spit. "Thank you," Benny said, and then before I could stop him, Rafter's real power is that he can light matches on polyester. Benny! Juanita looked from Benny to me. Her face softened a little more. I got a worthless power too. At last, I'd caught her in a lie. We saw you, I said, at the museum. You have all those powers. My aunt is a light shifter, Juanita said. Do you have one of those? Benny nodded. We have a cousin in Oak City who's a light shifter. She bends light and can make herself look like anybody she wants. And she can disguise people who are nearby, too. One time for Halloween, she gave me a mustache and an extra set of armpits so I could... Benny, I said, not now. Juanita continued. My aunt went to the museum and made it appear as if I was there. She took turns making each person look like me. I was at home in bed. We did it to confuse your family. That's also why my uncle came to teach our algebra class, to protect me from you two. My mind was spinning. She had to be lying. The bookcases, I said. They were closing in on us. How did you disable the safety mechanism? Juanita looked at me like I was crazy. I didn't disable anything. The shelves only close when there's no one standing on the ground. If you two wouldn't have started climbing shelves like monkeys, you wouldn't have had any problems. I felt more than a little silly. I had a million questions, but I ended up asking only one. If you're not a superhero, if you're not a super, I asked, what is your power? Juanita leaned towards me. Our noses were almost touching, and I could feel her breath on my face, and I smelled ginger and cinnamon. An electronic buzzer cut through the cold air. I couldn't help but jump. Lunch is over, Juanita said. I have to go to PE. And with that, Juanita Johnson turned and crawled out of the bushes. Chapter 9. Get the triple meat or get nothing. The principal called a meeting in the gym with the entire school. He demanded to know who caused the destruction in the library. Benny and I could say nothing without giving away our identities. I saw Juanita setting several bleachers down, her face pointing towards. She never looked at anyone. Finally, we were sent back to class. Benny and I didn't get a chance to talk until after school. I got off the bus and followed him to our room, where he immediately grabbed a comic book and flopped down on his bed. Benny, I said, why did you tell Juanita your power? We're superheroes, he shrugged. We don't lie. The superhero code lets us lie to villains, I reminded him. Yeah, I know, but still. He put the comic book down. I felt like we could handle anything she threw at us the honest way. We didn't need to lie about our powers. I raised my eyebrows. You thought that you and I could stand up to a super with your belly button trick and my polyester power? I didn't even have any matches. It's not a trick, Benny said. It's a power. And we did stand up to her. I'm pretty sure we won that battle. I don't know about that, I said, but I'm pretty sure the library lost. Benny got off the bed and started his push-up routine. How many are you up to? I asked. 11, Benny grunted as he struggled to lift his frame off the carpet. I counted as Benny did 11 push-ups and then one more. 12, Benny said, collapsing on the floor and then rising into a kneeling position. At this rate, I'll be up to 1,000 by June. Do you really think Juanita's got a worthless power? I asked. Maybe, Benny said. Her story about the light sifter sure makes sense. None of it makes sense to me, I said, rubbing my forehead. Dad poked his head into the room. Rafter? There you are. How would you like to go on patrol with me tonight? Patrol is just like what it sounds. Every night, one of the Baileys goes out into the city looking for evildoers, citizens committing crimes. With 1,000,000 people in Split Rock, you'd think patrol would mean a night of action and adventure. It doesn't. The citizens of Split Rock know that superheroes roam the street, so they tend to be on their best behavior. Frankly, patrol is boring. And after talking to Juanita, I had a few questions for Dad. Okay, I said. Right after dinner? Yep, Dad said. Eat hearty and dress warm. Tonight we battle with criminals. After dinner, I changed into my patrol clothes. I pulled on some thermal underwear and then a pair of black jeans and a black hoodie. I wouldn't need any of this when I got my super suit. I grabbed a ski mask and my phone and headed downstairs. Dad was waiting for me in the root cellar. He no longer looked like a skinny guy who wore a pocket protector and a bow tie to the office. He wore his super suit. The titanium plates were molded to look like bulging muscles. His green and yellow costume was clean and wrinkle-free. He looked heroic. He looked super. If you were a bad guy, you wouldn't want to meet him in a dark alley. Dad and I followed the tunnel to the back exit, and I climbed up a ladder and opened a hatch. Excuse me. A few small trees and small bush provided cover, and we slipped into the night without anybody noticing. The air was cold and the stars shivered in the night sky. Are you ready? Dad asked, and without waiting for an answer, he grabbed me around the waist and leaped into the dark. I love to fly. Not the kind of flying that's done in a plane or a helicopter. The real kind of flying, when there's nothing between you and the whole world. It's something I'd never grow tired of. I watched the earth fall away from my feet. Dad held me tight, and even thousands of feet up, I felt safe. The worries and the cares of the past 2 days seemed to fade into the background. The frigid air bit my face so I could put on my ski mask. Where are we going tonight? I asked, yelling to be heard over the rushing wind. Wherever there's danger, Dad declared in his booming superhero voice. I could tell Dad secretly wished for a crime wave, something to make patrol a bit more exciting, but Split Rock had been a solid obedience wave for years. Let's go downtown, Dad said, by the public library. Just a second. Get me a little drink here. You never what wild and crazy things might be happening in the library. I remember the shelves and the books and the dust crashing around the school library. Right, Dad. Dad flew towards a group of skyscrapers. He roared in between the buildings and around them, and I held out my hands and felt the wind bite at my fingers. Nothing was happening at the library, or at the city center, or the taco shack next to the city center. Dad was about to fly to his favorite tire store when he pulled up short. What have we here? And I looked to see where Dad was pointing. A guy crossing the street? Exactly, Dad replied. And look where he's doing it. Right in the middle of the street. Of the block. That, my son, is called jaywalking. And we caught him red-handed or red-footed, as the case may be. Dad deposited me on the limb of a tree. You wait here. Oh, and take this. And he pulled out a small camera out of his utility belt. If I look particularly heroic, snap a picture for the family website. He floated down to the man, who by the time was getting into his car. I watched Dad pick him up, carry him halfway down the block, and drop him gently onto the crosswalk. No need to thank me, Dad called as he flew away. I couldn't hear what the man was yelling, but it didn't sound like he was shouting his thanks. That guy was almost to his car, I said when Dad returned to the tree. Now he has to walk all the way around. Yes, Dad said, but now he's obeying the law. And he'll be able to sleep better because of it. Dad took the camera back from me. How did I look? Did you get a picture? No, I said. It was too dark. Sorry. We spent the next 2 hours flying around looking for murderers, thieves, or perhaps another jaywalker. We found Nothing. Dad finally stationed us on top of a bank. I think he was hoping for a good old-fashioned robber to drop in and attempt a grand heist. Sometimes, around 9 o'clock, the temperatures dropped below freezing, and I started shivering. I can take you back home if you want, Dad offered. I feel bad. My super suit keeps me nice and toasty. I am okay, I said. I decided it was time to talk. I didn't know exactly how to bring up the subject, so I did it in a roundabout way. So what did the news have to say about the diamond heist? I asked. Dad shrugged. If you read the right news, they condemned the actions of the Johnsons and praised us for saving the day. And what did the wrong news say? I asked. Something about destroying a national treasure, Dad said, which I do feel bad about. Maybe Jessie got a little overexcited with her lightning, but still, the Johnsons would have stolen the diamond if we hadn't stepped in. And who knows what evil purposes they would have used it for. Didn't we kind of mess things up? I asked Dad. Well, I guess that's one way of describing it. Dad looked thoughtful. It certainly wasn't the battle we would highlight at the reunion, but think about it. Before we got to the museum, they only had one huge diamond, and it cost millions of dollars to own. Even if you can't afford it, what are you going to do with it? You can't exactly make an earring out of it. The weight would tear your ear clear off. Now they have lots of little diamonds that won't tear anybody's ears off. Dad's explanation wasn't helping my confusion. Dad, have you ever wondered? I mean, what if the Johnsons aren't evil? What if they think they are superheroes just like us? I shook my fist, but only barely. Dad looked over at me. I expected him to laugh or to tell me that I was crazy, but he didn't. You're growing up faster than I like, Dad said. What are you talking about? I remember having the same talk with your grandpa, Dad said. It's part of becoming a superhero. I still didn't follow, and Dad finally continued. You have to remember, son, that supervillains are masters of deception. In comic books, the bad guy is easy to spot because he wears a black costume and has an evil-sounding name like Lord Agony or Mr. Meanie Pants. In the real world, things aren't so obvious. The Johnsons, Dad shook his fist, spend a very large portion of their time spreading lies about us to the good citizens of Split Rock. All you have to do is read the wrong newspaper or the wrong blog, and you'll find people who have been tricked. It's all part of the supervillainy, and they're very good at it. I remembered Juanita's face in the library. Juanita told me she got a worthless power too. I don't think she was lying, at least not about that. She's a supervillain, Dad said. She probably been taking lying lessons since she was 3. Lying lessons? Yeah, from her family, Dad said, or maybe from the internet. You can find anything on the internet. I once found a video that taught you how to tap dance the Canadian national anthem in Morse code. I didn't think Juanita had been taking lying lessons on the internet, but Dad did have a good point. If the Johnsons were villains, of course they'd be good at lying and deceiving. But why? What were they up to? The important thing is this, Dad said. All your life, your mom and I have taught you that the Johnsons are villains, and it's true. They are, but now you need to discover that for yourself. You can't take my word for it. If you're going to spend the rest of your life fighting the Johnsons, then you need to find out for yourself. How do I do that? I asked. Well, Dad said, when I was your age, I read the newspapers. I went to the library and looked up books. You can probably do the same thing on Google. I'm convinced that when you look at the big picture, you'll come to the same conclusion. I looked down at the street below, and the wind blew a few scraps of paper and leaves across the deserted street. I thought it strange that a place could be so busy and loud during the day, but so peaceful and still at night. And that's when I saw it out of the corner of my eye, a glint of light, down in the drugstore across from the bank. At first I wondered if I'd seen anything, but then in the darkness of the store, I saw it again, a small flicker of a flashlight. "Dad," I said, pointing, "there's something going on down there." "What?" Dad sounded excited. "Where? Is somebody doing something evil?" "I don't know," I said. "I saw a light down at the drugstore." "Hang on," Dad said. "I'll switch to infrared, and we'll get to the bottom of this." Dad twisted a few dials on his belt of his suit. "Wait, that's not the right one," he grumbled to himself. "That's the humidifier. Darn it, now I'll be all moist. And there we go, infrared." I waited while Dad stared down across the street. Finally, he spoke. "What have we here? I believe we have an actual crime in progress. It looks like a couple of teens, and they're in the candy aisle, feeding their sweet tooth. Or would it be sweet tooths? Sweet teeth? That doesn't sound right. It doesn't matter. They haven't learned the cold, hard facts about the consequences of committing a crime when superheroes are on patrol. Come on, son. Let's go." Before I could say anything, Dad grabbed me and stepped off the ledge of the building. We flew over to the top of the drugstore and landed in the alley. Sure enough, the back door was propped open with a plastic milk crate. "You wait here," Dad said. "I'll be back in a flash." I grabbed his sleeve. "Hey, wait! Aren't you forgetting the superhero code?" Dad stopped up short. "What do you mean?" "There are 2 superheroes on patrol," I said, "and I'm the one who spotted the crime. The superhero code says I get to make their arrest." I could see what Dad was thinking, as plain as if he could say it. "But you don't have a power." Instead, he replied, "You're right. I'll let you go in first, but I'll be right behind you if you need help. Remember your training. Catch them by surprise, declare your authority, and get the situation under control." Opening the door, I slipped inside. Dad followed me, and we found ourselves in the store's stockroom. Boxes set on shelves stacked almost to the ceiling. Pallets leaned against one wall, and voices drifted from the front of the store, and I could make out what the intruders were saying. "Get a few more Hot Pockets. You know how much I love those things. Cheese and broccoli? What are you, some kind of a health nut? Get the triple meat or get nothing." A second door led to the front of the store, and I peeked through the round window that reminded me of a porthole in a boat. 2 figures huddled next to the freezer unit. The intruders were older than me, probably in high school, and one of them wore a bright, fluffy yellow jacket. The other had a sweater. The one with the yellow jacket was picking through the freezer, while the teen wearing a sweater held a bulging pillowcase. Yellow Jacket dumped a few more packages into the pillowcase. "Hey, you know what we forgot? Sweet tarts." "Sweet tarts?" said the teen with the sweater. "Sweet tarts are for sissies." "I like 'em," Yellow Jacket protested. "They're sweet and tart at the same time. It's a marvel of modern science." I felt a bolt of courage. These weren't the kind of criminals who would carry weapons. These were just a couple of goofballs taking advantage of some poor shop owner. I could do this. I looked back at Dad and gave him the thumbs up. He returned my gesture and nodded. I took a deep breath from iron resolve, ferocious courage, and a healthy dose of insanity. I adjusted my ski mask, lifted a foot, and kicked open the door. It made a satisfying crash against the wall. Both boys jumped in surprise, and I stormed into the room. "Stop right there, citizens!" My voice was strong. I felt like I had the right balance of authority and command. "We are superheroes, and you are under arrest. Catch them by surprise. Inform them of your authority, and quickly get things under control." Textbook entrance, executed to perfection. Only it didn't work. Sweater took one look at me and bursted out laughing. "Nice ski mask, little man." I looked behind me. Dad hadn't followed me into the room. Yellow Jacket grinned and pointed. "I've heard of people like you, superheroes. You don't have a power, but you dress up and start pushing into other people's private affairs, he snorted. That's a little embarrassing, kid. Your costume needs work. Are those pajamas under your pants? It's thermal underwear, I said. It keeps me toasty warm. I decided I really needed to work on my comebacks. My face felt hot under my ski mask. For a brief moment, I wondered if it had any polyester in it. Maybe I could try to impress them by striking a match on the side of my head. I didn't realize you freaks started so young, Yellow Jacket said. You're an embarrassment to the real superheroes. Why don't you just go back to your mommy and leave this kid alone? The voice came from behind me, and it sounded mean. I turned, and made my stomach flip. A third man with a shaved head stood leaning against a freezer. He chewed on a pencil, and he had gloves with fingers cut out. Stubble darkness darkened his jaw. The bald man growled. He pulled the pencil out of his mouth. I told you guys we couldn't be seen. He took a few steps towards me. New things have to get a little bit messy, and he returned the pencil to his mouth. I tried backing up, but Yellow Jacket and Sweater were right there. They had me by my arms, and I couldn't break free. The bald man was moving towards me, and then stopped short. He looked over my shoulder, and his eyes became darkened slits. I didn't need to turn around to know that Dad had finally made his entrance. Stop right there, citizens! Dad's voice boomed through the store. We are superheroes, and you are under arrest. I heard the boys gasp. They let go of me, but the bald man stepped forward. I watched as he reached behind his back, and a flash of steel shined in the darkened room. Dad! I shouted, rolling to the side of the aisle. He's got a gun! A gun. The Johnsons didn't use them, and neither did we. Dad's super suit could stop bullets, but there were plenty of places a shot could slip through and do real damage. Dad's power was the ability to fly. Bullets would kill him just as fast as they could kill anybody else. I couldn't look away from the barrel as the man lifted the gun and leveled it at Dad. I'll never forget what happened next. Dad could have grabbed me and ran. He could have moved to safety and called for backup, but he didn't, because my dad is a superhero. He lowered his head. His helmet was titanium and Kelvar weave, and this would protect his face. The gun fired 3 times. I heard the ping of bullets hitting the metal, but in 2 quick steps, Dad was next to the bald man. And when he swung his fist, the gun went flying, and Dad grabbed the man by the wrist, pulled him forward, and dropped him to the ground in a single motion. Dad's voice was low and steady. Nobody pulls a gun when my son is in the room. Is that understood? The bald man nodded. And take that pencil out of your mouth. You look like a beaver. And just like that, it was over. Dad must have already called the police because I heard sirens in the distance. When the police arrived, Dad escorted the 3 of the criminals out to the patrol car. He gave one of the officers the gun. He sat on the crate outside and waited. I sat on the crate outside and waited while Dad answered questions. The police officer wasn't very friendly. Probably now he had to fill out paperwork explaining how superheroes had found and stopped a crime that he hadn't even known about, and Dad answered all the questions with patience. I closed my eyes. I could still see Dad, lowering his head, lunching forward and saving the day. My dad was a superhero, and so was everyone else in my family. That much I knew. Juanita had claimed her family were superheroes. I couldn't believe it. The Johnsons were villains, and they were up to something big. If I could find out what, worthless power or not, maybe it would be my chance to save the day. And that is end of chapter 9. So tomorrow on Wednesday, we will read chapter 10 and 11, I believe. I don't have my calendar in here with me. But chapter 10 is This is Beautiful Prose, Mr. Snuggly Bear. So you guys have a great day. Stay cool. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Keep reading. Yes, keep reading. Hey, By the way, we have a little contest for somebody. If you would either email Miss Rowe, or if you would send a message to your Google Classroom and tell us what superpower you would like to have, we are going to give out a free book. Let's just say we'll have a drawing for 5 free books. Okay? So, what is your superpower? Let Miss Rowe know or send it to your Google Classroom. All right? And we'll announce the winners next sometime this week, maybe on Friday. Okay? That way we have some time. All right. See you soon. Bye-bye. Keep reading.